G'day guys, welcome back to Supercoach with DR and welcome to the round 12 stock market video. Hope you're having a cracking week so far. Well, the buys are finally upon us. We've been planning for this for weeks. As we know, carnage hit some teams last week, including myself. The two blokes standing here at the bottom, Big Shrek Darcy and the Rat King. Both sustained hammies, so they'll be gone for the short to medium term. I think they're both trade-out options this week. We do have the man in the middle, though, here, Jack McRae, Supercoach royalty, now available in our forward lines. Could be a bit of a blessing for us, but unfortunately does have that round 15 bias. So we'll talk about his prospects when we get into things. And we do have two blokes up the top of the list this week. And funnily enough, you won't see George Wardlaw here. I'm not saying he's not a good option, but I think these two blokes are probably the two that you really want to look at this week. Up the top, we've obviously got Wardlaw's teammate in Eddie Ford. After 180 plus in the last couple of weeks, he sees himself with a negative break-even in the hundreds. And below him, Kieran Briggs may be the ideal replacement short-term anyway, if you do have someone like a Darcy in your side. So we'll talk about all the prospects when we get into it. This week we are skipping the buy players. So St Kilda, Brisbane, Sydney and Fremantle all have the buys this week. So we won't be talking about those players. No point trading them in. We will have a heavy focus on those blokes next week though. And for any new players to Supercoach, keep in mind that it's only best 18 this week. You just need 18 players on the field. It may be tough for some, but if you can get close enough, hopefully you'll set yourself up for the rest of the buy period anyway. So I'll leave the intro there, guys. Hope all is well. Let's see who's sitting at the top of the list for the 500k plus defenders. Now, we do have a few defenders on the buy this week. Sinclair, Ryan, Lloyd and Young being the main ones, but we will start with the man up the top, James Sicily. We were expecting big things from the Sis Dog last week. And did he deliver? 43 touches at 91% efficiency, massive 22 intercept possessions, 16 marks, and 4 of those contested. 172 points for his efforts, and big reward for those who ended up jumping on. Unfortunately, though, old habits can die slow, and he got up to a little bit of mischief and was given a one-match ban. That's why he's got the Muppet symbol on him this week. Extremely frustrating for owners, but he looks to be a terrific pick moving forward. His friendly role is back. I had the Red Dog as my best defensive trading option 3 weeks ago, I think it was now. And I wish I had have taken my own advice. He's pumped out scores of 136, 101, and a massive 144 last week. Predicted to score well against the Roos. You certainly aren't getting the same value as you were a fortnight ago, but he's still the cheapest option on this list. Sam Doherty has been so frustrating to watch since his return. This is only because I'm a salty previous owner. It's like seeing your ex move on. You know, he or she's really happy, got a new lease on life, scoring well, and I'm sitting here by myself with a bunch of potatoes like Will Day. It's a bit harsh on Will Day. I actually love him as a player, but you know what I mean. But anyway, if it wasn't for his round 15 buy, I would have jumped on a couple of weeks ago. Since he's returned in round 6, he's gone bug UDR and pumped out scores of 106, 111, 94, 135 and 124. So for me, he averaged 83, and ever since I've traded him out, he's returned a 5-round average of 118. An absolute killer. Dan Houston, I've been biased against him because he's just one of my burnmen from the past, but could be a decent pod. You know, 110, 122, 81, 128, and 114 over the past 5 rounds. That's absolutely fantastic and actually flown under my radar a little bit. So this would be a lone wolf move to consider if you're okay with the round 15 buy. Dacos, well, I've actually got the vice-captain symbol on him this week. We've all got him, and I think he could be a great option against the Eagles. He should tear it up, and I reckon he'll be hungry for more of those Brownlow votes, because Darcy Moore may have stolen a few over the last few weeks. Tommy Stewart, my vice-captain last week, and he delivered with a nice 138. Just super consistent, and scores well even when he has a down game. Even with an injury-affected 18 in round 1 in his season average, he still sits 5th overall for defensive averages this year. And if we take out that 18, his average is actually 119. And that puts him first with Nick Dacos and actually ahead of Jordan Dawson. He's got the perfect buy where you won't even miss him and comes at under 600k. So my best buy this week, in my opinion anyway. Dawson, been a little bit up and down lately, and in saying that, his downs aren't major downs, and he does have a decent floor. Over the past month, he scored 122, 89, 92, and a 120 last week. Plays Gold Coast before his bye, which is a friendly matchup, and he's clearly a top 4 defender. The other matchup is the Eagles as well, which is extremely friendly. He hasn't been available for under 600k since round 4, so even though that break-even sits at 130, I still think it's fine to pick him up. And Aaron Hall, this is specifically for my mate Robbie. Mate, just get out of Dodgeville now. Stop being so stubborn. Trade the Hall pass out. Just a little drive-by there as we exit the big boys in defence. On to the defenders, 250 to 500k, and up the top we have Josh Weddle. Didn't reach triple figures this week, but still a very solid game, an easy hold up until his bye at least. Been a super rookie selection for us. Jordan Ridley, I don't even want to talk about this bloke. He underdelivers for me all season, and then goes bang with his 2 best scores as soon as I trade him out. Gives me an 18 to say goodbye. I'll let him go, just like Doc, and he comes back and averages 126 in what looks to be a much better role for scoring. So this is very much personal bias, but I can't trust him. He's on my never again list, but you can see the wallet symbol there. If you're really low on cash and need to go best available at the price, then Ridley's probably the bloke that you bring in. Dale, the time, it was last week, I think, but look, you aren't getting the value that you were. Still an option under 500k, but I do think the ship has sailed. I've got that with the wallet symbol there, which means you've missed out on most of the value, but there's still some meat on the bone. Nice 3-round average of 112, clearly the highest on this list as well. Atkins subbed out last week, and a massive fail for those that decided to bring him in. Hopefully went with Humphrey. I'd probably hold if he's playing. A warm body through the tougher buys should be handy. If you want to move him on, I've got no major issues with that though. Whitfield is a pod option that you could consider, but probably not. And such a frustrating pick. Seems to get enough of the ball every week, but ball use is just off, and that's not rewarded in Supercoach. In fantasy, it's fine, but that's not the game that we play. Well, some of us do, but we talk Supercoach. Some are looking to flip, which I get, but surely he's got a big game in him very, very soon. Things will start to click. Maybe more hope there, because I'm certainly an owner. I've got the hold or chop symbol there. Either way, I wouldn't blame you. I'm giving him up until his bye to give me a triple figure score, and if not, I may just cut my losses and move him on. So you're on notice, Will. Come on, lift your game, son. On to the defenders, under 250k, and at the top we have the young Irish sensation in Mullen. The rule breaker and caution symbol is there because even though he comes at a bargain price and looks like an exciting player, we all saw what happened to Blake Drury, so I would highly advise against going early here. It's so easy, wait and see if he's selected after the bye when Geelong gets some cattle back, and if he is, bring him in with a lot more confidence and a guaranteed price rise. The last thing you want is another dead rookie occupying your bench, so I am against bringing him in early, but very, very keen to see how he tracks, and will definitely bring him in if he gets that third game. O'Donnell, very easy pass, terrible roll, terrible average, terrible buy. Chincotta could be the answer to our prayers this week. With Carlton's mounting injury list, surely he gets another look in. He's got more cash to make, which is a nice bonus, but I think for many, a warm body just to scrape 18 dots this week is even better, so fingers crossed he's named. And Jordan Boyd, his teammate, close to 250k, pretty easy pass for me. On to the midfielders, 500k plus. Now, I do like a few options that are actually on the buy this week. That includes players like Neil, Brayshaw, Sarong, so they won't feature on the list this week, but I'll obviously go into them in a lot more detail the week after they've had their bye. But look, if you are looking to upgrade in the midfield this week, up the top we have Jordan to go. A huge game from him last week. Really rewarded owners like my man Janeth. Shout out to you, brother. 156 from 35 touches. 15 of those contested. Laid the 4 tackles. Also kicked a goal. The time to jump on for ultimate value was obviously last week where he was basically 40k cheaper. But for those that need to save some coin, he could be a decent M8. This will be the last week to jump on, in my opinion anyway, given the fact he's playing West Coast and has a good chance of punching out a big score. Zera had a decent enough game given the fact he was carrying a corky sustained by a knock from the big Nank. So good to see though, didn't complain, fought his way through it, so well done to you my man. Comes up against North this week, so we're expecting a big score, possibly captain material this week, and a decent buy still at under 600k. Last three against the Roos have been 117, 114, and a 140 last year. The desk, Rory Laird. The man is back. A 115 on the weekend, which included 16 tackles and a pretty controversial one. As we know, he was originally rubbed out for a week, but the Crows appealed and the decision came through live when we were recording the Supercoach Sword Play podcast.
I'm sorry. I just have to interject here, but Rory Laird is free to play.
No, you're joking.
Yes. He's off. He got off.
Yes.
The live reaction.
No way.
Corruption. Yes.
I was thinking they're talking all about 16 out of 16. The desk is
Michael
back.
Christian is corrupt and we love him for it. Yes, the desk is good to go.
So as you can see, safe to say that we were pretty excited as Laird owners, but a fantastic trading option, and I have the buy now symbol on him. Rowley, he's been tearing it up lately and been the beneficiary of Took's absence. He's a CBA pig, has a fantastic buy, and more than a solid ceiling when he's really on. He has been a bit of a yo-yo though in the last month, going 85, then all the way up to 165, then down to an 87 against the Lions. I know Dunkley put some time into him though, and then up to a massive 159 last week against the Dogs. So a little bit hot and cold, but he does have a great buy, and you could go the lone wolf on him if you want. I couldn't do it personally, as even though his break-even is certainly in the green, I don't see a lot more value in him. But if he's already in your side, then kudos to you, as Great Spills would say. Tommy Green, just tracking along. Pretty much the same story with him most weeks. Been a solid starting selection. Sammy Walsh, I have the DPP Nazi symbol on him this week. No DPP for you, Sam. He was close, but didn't quite get there after spending more time in the middle in the last 2 weeks. As a team, Carlton aren't looking too flash, but he's been solid enough. 104, 130, 117, 106, 117 again, 92, and 105. Not big ceiling type scores, but very consistent between 105 to 120. Track, 30 touches for 122 points on the weekend, 90% time on ground, attended 81% of Melbourne's CBA, so spending a lot of time in the middle, and that was his highest CBA rate for the year. Obviously with no Clary out, that was to be expected. He is absolute quality, but does come at a hefty price. I've got the 8-ball symbol on him there, because I see him as a top year 8 mid by the year's end. I've also got the 8-ball on Libba. Think he can get there. Had a pretty poor score of 80 last week, but aside from that, has only gone under 100 once, and that was in round 2 with an 87. Everything else is in triple figures. And he also has 3 140 plus scores, so a very nice ceiling as well. But again, one with an unfriendly buy. His teammate Bond, we've all got him, captain or vice captain choice each week. He's playing an undermanned Geelong midfield at Marvel. Hopefully he can pump out a nice 125 plus, or even get close to that break even. His lowest score since round 3 is 112. 3 highest, 182, 164, and 145. What a man he is. And Noah Anderson, he's been, I'd say, a failed trade-in for those that invited him into their sides after that massive 189 against the Ds. If you got him before that, still possibly okay, but he hasn't hit 100 again with scores of 88, 73, and 92. He's fooled us all. The one to get him was Rao, but given the fact he's got the perfect buy and the ability, as we've seen, to go close to 200, I would hold, but it's easy for me to say that as a non-owner. On to the midfielders, 250 to 500k. Now, this could be harsh and I may be wrong, but I think Greenwood is a trap. Has a decent role for now, but I can't see him scoring enough or making enough cash to make it worth your while. A 91 to 116 in the last 2 weeks is great, but can he keep it up? I'm backing against it, but if you've got a better gut feel, then go for your life. I wish you all the best of luck. Baker had a good game last week, now over 300k, so certainly done his job as a rookie, has been a really good starting pick, and also will be a nice cover up until his buy. So for me, a definite hold for now. Pendles comes in at under 470k, got the Mr. Burns symbol on him there because the great man is getting old, a future Hall of Famer, but I think there are probably better options. Absolutely no disrespect to the man, though. Warple, easy hold for this week. With a 102 in his system from the week before, he's got more coin to make and will provide some nice cover for now. Ollie Wines now, he's looked much better in the last 3 weeks. Not smashing it out of the park by any means, but a 93, 110 and 95 are actually his top 3 scores of the year. So if you believe that the pattern will continue to trend upwards, he is what your budget M8 type option. And Cripper, excuse me, well, this isn't good. 3-round average of 75, under 500k, and under a possible injury cloud. As an owner, I think you just hold. He doesn't have the value to really trade up. And if you really need to flip, I think you can do it before his buy anyway. If you want to put 100k on top of him and go to a lead or a merit, you can, but only if you've got the luxury trades to do so. Yeah, really unfortunate for Cripper owners because to start off the season, he was actually looking really good. On to the midfielders under 250k, and look at this massive list to choose from, just the 2 this week. And the main man to talk about is George Wardlaw. After looking terrific in round 10, scoring an 85 on debut, he couldn't quite back it up this week with a 43. A big key to his 85 was his high tackle count. Had 9, but this week only laid the 1 tackle, which certainly lowered his score. But the role is there. They like him in the guts. He's a fantastic talent. And to put it simply, I don't see Wardlaw as a cash cow to make a quick buck and flip. He's more of your solid bench cover for the year that you should be able to rely on for a week here or there when a primo is out short term and you're low on trades. So a fine trade in just to sit on your midfield bench. And Owen Davey is just in no man's land. Break even is well in the red and on the chopping block this week. On to the Rucks, and we had a bit of carnage on the Ruck line last week. My team was personally affected. If you watch my live reaction to the Shrek and Rat injuries on my round review, you'll know that my jaw just hit the floor. Couldn't believe it. My R1 and my Ruck cover both go down with hammies in the same week. Devastating news. Darcy was out with the bye anyway, which is why he isn't featured here on this list, but he may not be back for any of the bye rounds at all. So I think we've got 2 clear standard options this week. If you decide to go up, I like Wits. And if you like to go down, I like Briggs. So Witsy has around 12 bye, hasn't gone under 115 in the last month, knocked out a 135 against English last week, and just looks back to his best, plays at TIO again this week against Rob, who isn't much chop. Just seems like the safest and most sensible option to me. But if you want to make a bit of cash and go down the downgrade path, then Briggs is an appealing option, just over 250k with a break-even of negative 64, 200 plus scores on the trot. One of those was against Marshall. Seems like he has that number 1 rock spot for at least a short term, which is all you need. If he averages 75 over the next 3 weeks, he'll make over 100k. If he goes closer to averaging 100 like he has in his first 2, then he'll get to 150k or more profit. So I like both options. Just decides, yeah, it's up to you. Whichever path you want to stroll down, I respect that. In regards to the other rucks, Ryan, he's on the chopping block with Nank back in the team. He simply doesn't have the role to score well. Nank himself is a pod option. I don't really like it. No real reason to go there. Has around 14 bye. Tim English, he's been a bit out of sorts lately, not hitting the heights that he was earlier in the season. Since round 10, his scores read 90, 124, which is okay, but 88, 118, and 105. As I said, still okay, but not best scorer in the comp type quality like we were seeing earlier on. I don't even want to talk about Max Gorm. I purchased him a few weeks ago, expecting some nice DPP action. And when you know it, he misses out by 0.1%. 0.1. Ruined my future trade plans, but I've now altered those plans. And I'm going to look to bring in a man at the bottom of this list after his bye. It's Darcy Cameron. Look, has a highish break even, but is playing the Eagles this week. He's clearly the number 1 ruck with Cox playing forward, so the role is there. We all know the scoring potential is there too. I'm a huge advocate for ruck cover, but given the fact I need to trade out Rat, he's the ideal replacement to bring in for Briggs in round 15. He'll provide that ruck cover that I need, will most likely be attainable at a fair price, and should average between 95 to 100. That's probably good enough for me. On to the forwards, 500k plus, and as you can see, there is a very, very common theme with every player on this list, and that is that they have the round 15 bye. It's absolute carnage in our forward line. It's very highly owned players here. You've got your Zeebles, your Cogs, Tarantos, Rosies. Yeah, it's not going to be easy, that's for sure. So it is certainly going to be tough to trade into this bye in the red, but we'll go through the options anyway. A very interesting option sits at the top of the list this week, and that is Jack Macrae. He's got the welcome mat next to his name because he's been gifted DPP and now available as a forward, believe it or not. Supercoach royalty of the past that has suffered this year at times due to his role, but he's reminded us of what he's capable of over the last 2 weeks with 2 140 plus scores. With a 3-round average and a break even of 41, he's very, very hard to pass up as a forward. The main issue is obviously the bye. We've got so many players already in red. It's so difficult to invest there, particularly before the buys. But if you can carry him by some miracle, if you are good in that round 15 buy up forward, get the man in. I do have concerns that Treloar sends him forward for longer periods upon his return. Crazy Bevo, he may decide to put Macrae in the ruck for all we know. Nothing would surprise me with the man. So a yes from me if your buy split allows it. Bolton had a massive month, needs a little bit more respect, but is a burn man for me and many others. Not the most consistent scorer, but his last 5 scores, 97, 152, 92, 139, and 120, rotating forward and through the midfield. He's averaging 54% CBAs on the year and almost 2 goals a game in the last month. Owned by 6% of coaches, so certainly a pod, lone wolf move. Personally, think he's just too risky at the price. Rosie, I've got the safest houses symbol on him. Such a solid selection, highly owned player for a reason. 104, 105, 140, and 111 in the last month. Port have such a bright future, don't they? Rosie, Butters, smashing up the midfield, and they'll do that for the next decade. That man Butters did have a quieter week last week after a massive 170 plus a week before. Still went 100 plus, but thought he could have gone higher, particularly against the Tigers. I wouldn't jump on at this price, but he's a great player to own. Plays the Hawks at the Adelaide Oval this week, so a great VC option if you do own him. Now, I've got the cane corn symbol here on Timmy Taranto this week because he's making the old volcano look a little bit silly. He's been Richmond's best player this year by a mile, and he's in fine Supercoach form. Cogs, he's only gone 100 plus once in the last month. 79, 93, 108, and 87. That's pretty poor. Definitely not one to jump on at the moment. And Baz, look, here's your pod. Look at him for a lone wolf move, but only the 61 last week. The buy, again, I keep mentioning it, is obviously a killer. He's been in good form prior to that, though. 103, 109, 102, and a 121. But the bookends of those scores are 69 and 61. Obviously not fantastic. Also lacks the ceiling to compensate, I think, for those floor scores. So I'd probably just rather pay up for Macrae. And lastly, Jay-Z, he's delivered 2 of his 3 lowest scores of the year in the last fortnight. I'm a little bit worried, so I've got the symbol next to his name this week. He was on a mad tear, wasn't he? 106, 111, 100, and 179, and a 114 before reaching 601k in round 10. But now his price is plummeting, and we need a big ceiling, seagull type score. He gets his 25 kicks just to enter his price cycle ASAP because that price will start to go down. I've got faith in the pick though, and I plan on keeping him for the year. For some, he may be, say, a luxury buy flip, but personally, I'm not in that position and still rate his ability to push out premium type numbers, not uber primo numbers, but good enough to occupy a position in your back or forward 6. On to the forwards, 250 to 500k, and up the top we have Humphrey B. Bear. I love this bloke, so fun to watch, going to be a superstar, kicked a super goal at a really crucial time, didn't let the pressure get to him. He delivered a 90 for us, which was perfect. You can see there that the ship has sailed for the Bear as a buyer, but as an owner, it's been an awesome ride, perfect buy cover, great roll, all green ticks so far. Seamus, I see summer trading this week I'd much rather hold for at least another week or two and then flip him on his buy in round 14. Still got 20 odd K to make this week, which is really handy moving forward. Slight concerns he was carrying an injury, but nothing on the reports, and he's been training, so looks like all is good there. But if you need or want to trade him, I suppose you can. That's why I've got the chop, watch and hold symbol. Decision is yours. Van Rooyen, probably a hold for me this week if you need the numbers on field, but if he's a best option to get, say, a forward in, then feel free to chop. Really team dependent this one. If you traded in Hobbsy, you'd still want to hold for at least another week. No point trading him this week. Points on field, money to make. Shees has a caution symbol as well as a role reversal symbol there. Playing up the ground more lately and not seagulling as much. I think he's a definite hold until he's buy, and then reassess, again, possibly a luxury flip in round 15. I'll wait and see for now, but again, if you're just not confident on his role, want to get out of Dodgeville now, I can see merit in that also, but yeah, I'll certainly be keeping him. And Jezza and the Tomahawk, both in the same boat. Wait and see. Look at those 3-round averages, 69 and 66. Not happy reading, but they could be cheap F6 options for those without a bank after their buy. And a time will come where they inevitably hit form again. But you just couldn't go there at the moment though. And we'll finish off with forwards under 250k. And before I get into these blokes, also wanted to give a big shout out. I forgot to mention this in the intro, to the legends that are Clarkey and Damo from the Jock Reynolds Mailbag podcast. They invited me on to have a chat this week. Had an absolute ball with them. So make sure that you do check that out. Always great talking to those legends. So thanks again, guys. Can't wait to come on again. But let's get to these blokes. And the man at the top of the list this week, Eddie Ford, is clearly the best trade-in option this week. Similar to the 500k forwards list, this is full to the brim with round 15 buy players, which highlights why we may be in a little bit of trouble here. But Ford is a must trade in this week. One of the easiest rookie trade-in options we've had this year, if not the easiest. He'll make a bucket load of cash if he keeps his current average up, but I can't see him averaging 90s. I have a feeling a poor score could be just around the corner. But even if he averages 50 to 55 for the next 3 weeks, he'll still make 120 to 130k. An absolute no-brainer, even though he's got the bad buy. I expect a few just to get him in for the next 3 weeks, just as that cover, get that cash gen, and then look to flip him anyway. But again, that's with 50 to 55s. It can push, say, 70 to 75s. Then that cash gen, yeah, looking even brighter there. Ollie Lord posts his best score of the year with a 75 from 10 touches, 6 marks, 3 tackles and a goal. Has handy DPP status, but a terrible buy, so I'll pass for me. The ship has sailed there anyway, as you can see from the symbol. Then we have a couple of North boys. Spicer, subbed off for 11 points. Won't be relevant this year. He gets the Subway sign this week, but could have been a pass or a poo. And Drury, he's been a disaster trade-in for those that jumped on. Possibly not a disaster if you use a profit from downgrading well, but no good at all. And Tommy Berry, only the 8 disposals, playing a deep forward pressure role last week. 44 points for that. But his break-even is in red due to his sub-affected score of 5 in round 10 against the Lions. Could be handy buy cover, but job security is shaky. Only 60% TOG on the weekend. Yeah, not looking fantastic. But, again, want to really drum this home. If you trade in anyone this week, make sure that it is Edward Ford. So that's it for now, guys. All the best of luck with your trade-ins and your trade-outs for this week, and I'll see you soon in the next one. Good luck navigating the buys.